Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are getting into the art and the science of giving feedback. You know, the kind that actually helps people learn and grow instead of just pointing out what they did wrong. We're going to break down what their research really says works.
So let's start with this really powerful idea that comes from decades of research. Feedback is often called one of the single most powerful influences on learning. But here's the thing, that influence, it's a total double-edged sword. It can be incredibly positive and spark amazing growth, or it can be deeply negative and just shut a learner right down.
For this explainer, we're really focusing on what's called formative feedback. But, I absolutely love this alternative term for it, feed forward. It just perfectly captures the whole point, doesn't it? This isn't about judging what happened in the past. It's all about giving clear, actionable info to help a learner build a better future.
Ultimately, feedback that really works goes way beyond just fixing mistakes. It has three big goals. First, obviously, is to improve skills. That's the one we all think of. But second, it has to actually motivate people to keep trying, because if motivation dies, so does learning. And third, and this one is so important, is to build their independence so they can eventually become their own best critic.
Okay, let's dive into some of the common things we do that, well, they feel right, but the research suggests we should probably rethink them. And this is where it gets really interesting.
First up is this idea that our job is to correct every single mistake we see. I mean, it seems logical, doesn't it? You see a mistake, you fix it. Simple.
But the research on this is incredibly clear. Trying to fix everything all at once is not only ineffective, it can actually be pretty damaging. It's totally overwhelming for the learner, it can be super discouraging, and honestly, very little of it actually sticks. A more selective, focused approach works so much better. Less is more.
Now, what about the famous feedback sandwich? Come on, you know the one. Say something nice, then drop the criticism, and then wrap it up with something nice again. It's got to be one of the most popular strategies out there. Well, it turns out even though everyone uses it, there's actually very little real evidence that it's effective. The big risk is that the nice comments just feel like fluff, and that crucial, constructive message you buried in the middle, it just gets lost or totally misunderstood. We all know praise is important, right? It's motivating. But is a simple good work or great job really the best way to go about it? And here's the absolute key. Praise that focuses on the process is way more powerful. So praising the effort someone put in, or the specific strategies they tried, or the improvement they made in one particular area, that has a much bigger long-term impact than just generic praise about the final outcome.
And finally, let's talk about grades, scores. What happens when we take our carefully written feedback and stick a grade on top of it? The moment a learner sees that score, their brain often just stops processing anything else. That grade becomes the final word. The research shows pretty clearly that if you want learners to actually read, absorb, and use your comments, you should give them the comments first and hold back on that score. Okay, so if we're busting all these common myths, what should we be doing? Let's switch gears and build a framework for feedback that actually works, all based on 5 key principles from the research. So here's the blueprint. First, great feedback is always about the work, never a personal jab. Second, it's specific and tied to a clear goal, not just some vague do better. Third, it pushes the learner just a little outside their comfort zone. Fourth, and this is crucial, it's not passive. It requires them to do something. And finally, it's balanced. It reinforces what's working, not just what's broken. And this totally reframes the whole process, doesn't it? The feedback itself isn't the finish line, it's the starting gun. The real work starts when the learner takes that feedback, really engages with it, and uses it to change what they know and improve what they do. I love this because it really gets to the heart of balance. It's so easy for us to go on an error hunt, right? But confirming what someone is doing correctly can be even more powerful than just pointing out mistakes. People need to know what to keep doing.
So we've got the principles down, but how do we actually put them into practice? Let's take a look at a few tools and strategies from a modern feedback toolkit. One of the first choices we have is whether to be direct or indirect. Direct feedback just gives the answer. Indirect feedback gives a clue. Now it's interesting because while a lot of learners say they want you to just tell them the answer, the research suggests that indirect feedback, the kind that makes them think and fix it themselves, might lead to deeper, more lasting learning.
Peer feedback is another incredibly powerful tool.
mainly because it's a total win-win. The person getting the feedback gets a fresh perspective, and it often feels a lot less intimidating. But the person giving the feedback also benefits a ton. They're sharpening their own critical eye and learning by analyzing someone else's work. And of course, we have to talk about technology, which has just thrown the doors wide open. We can now give personalized audio feedback, record quick screencasts that feel like a one-on-one session, use collaborative documents for real-time editing, and even get instant checks from AI-powered tools. But a really important word of caution here. While these automated tools can be fantastic assistants, especially for catching basic stuff, they absolutely cannot replace the personalized, insightful feedback from a human teacher or mentor who really gets the learner and their goals. And all of this, it brings us to a final and really fundamental shift in how we should be thinking about the whole purpose of feedback. It's not about delivering a final verdict. And this really is the bottom line. Feedback isn't just some decoration on the cake, something you do after the real work is finished. It is the work. It's the engine of learning. You could even say that to teach is to provide feedback.
So we'll leave you with this question to think about. The next time you give feedback, how can you shift it away from being a one-way judgment and turn it into a two-way dialogue? Because turning feedback into a real conversation, that's where the learning truly begins.